Schultz, and my major is graphic design.
Okay, so I'm Catherine Rainey. I'm a senior and I'm a psychology major.
My name is Ramiro Sarmiento, and I am a senior here at KEA, studying political science and international studies.
Margarita Lely Núñez Arroyo. I'm a journalism major with a double minor in dance and creative writing.
My name is Thomas Green. I'm a junior in chemical engineering. I'm also getting a certificate of entrepreneurship.
I'm Sofia De Lao, and I'm studying chemical engineering.
Okay. How do you identify yourself racially?
Biracial, so like half Korean, half American, half white. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm Black or African American.
So I see myself as white.
Ethnically, I would identify myself as Latino or Hispanic. Most
A Mexican American.
Hispanic, Latina.
How many of your teachers were the same race as you?
Yeah, most. Besides for, I think, like a gym health education teacher. Most of them were white.
Yeah. How many of your teachers were the same race or ethnicity as you?
not many. I want to say my Spanish teacher and my history teacher.
I had one Black teacher.
Wow.
And I think in my high school there weren't any.
Okay, so thinking back to like middle school and high school, what are some of the first scientists or mathematicians that come to mind that you think?
Einstein and some of those things, certainly Newton.
Einstein, Charles Darwin.
Einstein.
Albert Einstein and Newton and it's like Pascal's triangle, so him and
Into your head.
Tesla.
Why do you like Tesla so much?
I think because I can relate to him in terms of background, like not having very much to begin with and then working very hard to get to where you are. That really spoke to me.
How many of those people that you think of are the same race as you?
they aren't women either.
You can see this in our history books, but no, you don't see many people of my ethnicity being celebrated as people that made discoveries, even though there are plenty.
Did you ever feel that your teachers ever treated you differently because of your race?
Oh, absolutely. The way that they would talk to me, you could see even in just me asking questions, they felt like they needed to like talk slower with me. But then if I want to have casual conversations with them, instead of like, hi, how are you doing? They'd be like, yo, what's up? What's going on? And I'm like, hi, I'm fine. I'm good. So just little things like that. When like slavery and, the civil rights movement comes up, Catherine, well, how does this make you feel? What are your thoughts about it? Or, that type of thing. And then some teachers wouldn't even look at me when we talked about it. If I had my hand raised or I had a question, they'd be like, well, just go to your book. Like they didn't even want to talk about race with me. So I got a lot of different dynamics with my teachers about race.
Usually the narrative within the class was negative towards undocumented immigrants. And especially when that came from someone who didn't look like me, that also made it even more uncomfortable. So overall, that usually was what it manifested itself. The shape that it manifested itself would be conversations surrounding a topic that was very much related to me and my family, but I wouldn't actually be the center, the focal point of that conversation. But that alone is how like when you have conversations like that in the classroom and you're not, say, socially competent or culturally competent, or you don't, even if you know that students in your classroom look different from you, doesn't mean that you know how to deal with those students. So when even though I wasn't the focal point of those conversations, I was still present in the classroom and I could still hear that. So at the moment that conversation stopped, say the first 5 minutes of class when people come in and the bell just rang and we have that conversation, well, most people are able to go back and focus on, say, math or science, but to me that was something that I thought of for the rest of the class, and I couldn't really concentrate because if the teacher then in part asked me a question about physics or a question about chemistry, whatever subject we were talking about, the only thing I could think of was the words that just came out of her mouth. She just called my mom an illegal, she dehumanized her, and then that alone was like, okay, you're supposed to teach me this material, but you're not very nice In my opinion, you know,
Yeah.
that's how, like, when you're a child, when you're 10, when you're 11, when you're 12, that has a very big impact on you in terms of what people think of you, that what the person that looks like, that those words came out of, what they think of you. You generalize that. You don't know, because like I said, I never had a Hispanic or Latino teacher, many, and so the likelihood of them saying things like that was even lower. So it just made me very like hyper aware of what people looked like, what people thought, in turn because of what they looked like.
For the most part, I think teachers were like overly sensitive and like making sure they don't offend me. And I noticed that with my other friends that were minorities, they would always kind of like watch their language more and be more sensitive. And I kind of could catch those subtleties more so than I could just catch like blatant aggressions. And I don't know if that hurt me more, just hear like seeing those things.
What do you think could make classrooms a safer space for students?
Talking about people like us, knowing that we exist, because we don't exist in text. And when we do exist in text, it is a stereotype that the US creates of our culture. And we can't even relate to that. And when you don't exist in text or in the media or anywhere, like, how can we validate who we are? How can we defend that we're someone that apparently in this I think it's important to see yourself and know that someone like you can do something. I know growing up, I never saw any of the female members in my family ever want to aspire to do something or always belittled by men, which would go into the machismo and Latin culture, which is a whole different thing. But I told myself, I want to do this study on Latinos, and one of the first questions I say is, how can Latinas become something that does not exist? When you think about Latinas, you think about J-Lo. And J-Lo got where she got to. Maybe she has done fundraising and maybe she has done a lot of good things, but she got to where she was because of the over-sexualization of Latin women. And what are little girls trying to be like who are Latinas now? They're trying to look like J-Lo. Because if you look like J-Lo, you're Latina. And you're something. Being Latina and not looking like J-Lo and looking too skinny with glasses and reading Harry Potter. And then not even looking like Mexican, having a light toned skin. You're not Latin enough or Mexican enough in this country to be Latin or Mexican, but you're not ever going to be white because you eat tortillas with almost every plate. And people look at you weird because you don't even know how to use the fork and the knife and the little spoon and the other little fork right. So I think being children in school, being able to see themselves in text and being able to see that people like them can be scientists and can be lawyers and can be journalists and won't be seen as too emotional when they're journalists, that creates a tidal wave of opportunities for students.
We're not represented in that field. And so it's really hard to teach and, go off this specific curriculum that erases you and your identity. So for me, I was like, no, I'll just steer clear of those fields. They don't celebrate the black inventors and scientists and, people like that. We aren't talked about. And so for me, that was a deterrent.
Even in college, I've definitely seen a partitioning of race, especially in our fluid mechanics class. There's kind of the Asian table, there's the black table, there's the kind of Middle Eastern table, and it's kind of sad to see. It feels like Mean Girls, where everybody's kind of like at their own places, right? And you just kind of stick to the little niche that you're in. And I feel as when it comes to problem solving, people tend to kind of all be in the SPAR library all at the same time working on their stuff, and like if there isn't much branching out between groups, there just isn't as much achievement, because one person will have an idea about one problem, and these problems are so complex that sometimes you really can't figure it out on your own until one person kind of does, and then that spreads out to a bunch of different groups. And I think if you don't have that because you're divided racially, then you'll see some people, just because they have a smaller niche, not succeed as much. And so I think it is a shame that we kind of divide ourselves in our own ways, and that in general there are many who feel minoritized by the school.
This can change, and there can be more minority students in science and math fields, so that one day we, don't have to say, oh, every major discovery has been done by a white male.